We begin the program with Congressman Mike Pence, the chairman of the House Republican Conference. Congressman, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Al.
Less than 100 days before the midterm elections. As of today, what are the odds you'll take control of the House?
I think House Republicans believe we have a genuine opportunity to win back the majority of the House of Representatives.
Likely?
I'll leave that to the pundits and the handicappers. We believe we have a genuine opportunity to win back the American Congress for common sense and common values of the broad majority of the American people. People are tired of the borrowing, the spending, the bailouts, the government takeovers, and Republicans have candidates all across this country that are going to be carrying our message to virtually every congressional district in the country, and we're hopeful, but it's not over yet.
You're part of the leadership. If you do take control, what will be the first 2 or 3 priorities a Republican majority would move on?
I think the priorities of the American people are to get this economy moving again and to get federal spending under control. Creating jobs, reining in the enormous deficit spending that's taken place, frankly, under successive administrations
Would
of
one of the
different
top
political
priorities be
parties.
to repeal the health care bill?
I believe House Republicans are going to work to repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. Obviously, the President will be in office in 2011. He certainly would have the ability to veto any effort that we make, but whether it's using the power of the purse or engaging a national debate about starting over with health care reform that focuses on lowering the cost of health insurance rather than growing the size of government, Republicans will make that a leading priority in the next Congress.
Your colleague, Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, says that the party is running away from big ideas like privatizing Medicare and Social Security. I'm going to quote him. You're talking about Republicans are talking to their pollsters, and their pollsters are saying, stay away from this. We're going to win an election. Is Paul Ryan right? No agenda, really?
House Republicans are talking to the American people. We're listening to the American people. We actually initiated a project online at americaspeakingout.com where we're inviting the American people to bring their ideas forward. Many of those ideas are going to be a part of a governing agenda that we develop. And there's going to be big ideas. There's going to be very specific ideas in that. But I think it's all going to center around the need to get this economy moving again with traditional policies of growth and to get federal spending under control.
Well, then is he right? Should you stay away from issues like privatizing Social Security?
Well, look, the reality is to put our nation on a pathway toward fiscal sustainability and growth, we have to have an honest conversation with the American people about both fiscal discipline and reform.
Everybody seems to be, for most people say they're for fiscal discipline, but it gets hard when it's in your district. And let me give you one example for you. You went to the House floor to defend money for a second engine for the Joint Strike Fighter, the factory in your district. The Pentagon says it doesn't want it. The other day, a Tea Party group, this is a Tea Party group, said of this project, it's an example of, quote, opportunistic parasite feeding on the expansion of government. Tough stuff.
Well, sure, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but they're not entitled to their own facts. The reality is, and the Heritage Foundation produced a very important study on this, is that it is believed that when you are talking about a military defense contract that will span decades of time, it is in the interest of taxpayers in the long run to have more than one source, more than one manufacturer of that engine. The fact that one of those 2 engines in part is manufactured in Indiana, we certainly welcome. We're proud of those jobs. But at the end of the day, I really do believe that it was in the interest of our national defense.
Let me talk about the tax cuts. As you know, they're coming up. The issue will be joined fully probably in September. Republicans have been very passionate about paying for things like unemployment compensation extensions. If you were to extend the tax cuts for the upper brackets, which affects a lot of people, will you pay for them with an offset, another tax increase or a spending cut, specifically like $40 billion a year?
Well, as I said before, I really believe the priorities of the American people today are job creation and fiscal discipline. And I believe that it's in that order. I think the American people know we're never going to balance this federal budget again unless we get this economy growing. And the very idea that we would allow taxes to increase on job creators in this country on January 1st of next year I think is astounding to most Americans. The last thing you want to do in the worst economy in 25 years is raise taxes on people that create jobs in the city and on the farm.
But the budget rules say you have to for those in the upper brackets. So what do? Do you waive the budget rules, or you come up with a $40 billion offset?
Well, I believe it is imperative that we preserve the tax relief. I also believe that if we get the economy moving again and provide both tax relief and reform going forward, that as the economy expands, federal revenues will expand.
So
when John F. Kennedy cut marginal rates, when Ronald Reagan cut marginal rates, when George W. Bush passed these pro-growth tax cuts, we saw the economy expand, we saw revenues increase. And so I believe that the priority should be on job creation, but we also shouldn't be tied to the static analysis of budget calculators here in Washington, D.C. I think that we get the economy growing again, we're going to grow revenues and reduce deficits.
So for that short term, you would waive the budget rules for that?
I think it's imperative that we ensure that no American sees a tax increase during this difficult economy.
Erskine Bowles, the co-chair of that presidential Commission on Deficit Reduction, said that 3/4 of deficit reduction should come from spending, 1/4 from taxes.
Good morning, everybody.
Well, let me say that's a good start. You know, I've been following the Commission's work and dialogue over the last several months. I'm intrigued about the fact that they seem to be embracing an idea that Congressman Jeb Hensarling and I proposed with a spending limit amendment to the Constitution. We've suggested that it's time for fence lines around what this federal government can consume of this economy. But quite frankly, I think any proposal that would result in a tax increase on working families, small businesses, or family farms would be wrong-headed. We ought to be talking about fiscal discipline and tax reform.
So 100% should come from spending?
Well, no. I think, Al, what we ought to be talking about is fiscal discipline in Washington, D.C., which would include discipline on discretionary spending, would include entitlement reform, but also I think tax reform and relief that would encourage growth. But raising taxes during the worst economy in 25 years is a profoundly bad idea, and I won't support it.
Even if Erskine Bowles says 3/4 spending, 1/4 taxes, you say no, nothing taxes.
Well,
tax increases.
If they're talking about 1/4 tax increases,
right,
they'll find very little support among Republicans on Capitol Hill for raising taxes.
Congressman Pence of Indiana, thank you so much for being with us. When we come back, we'll talk to our reporters about the economy and Afghanistan.